Hole in the Wall is one of Hypixel's least known games, sitting at 0 players for most of the week. And yet, Hole in the Wall had a spectacular rise with a thriving community. But one controversial decision changed that. Hole in the Wall didn't even start as its own arcade game. It actually started out in 2015 as a minigame in Party Games 3, as one of the 8 minigames you could play. It was the only Party Games minigame with a tutorial, but the aim was simple: match the pattern of the hole, well, that's in the wall. The walls would slowly come towards you, and you would get more points the more accurate you were. At the end of the game, the top 3 players were awarded stars. But because of how easy the game was, people would often reach the maximum amount of points, and Hypixel didn't have tiebreakers, so the results were often unfair.
What? How did I not win that?
Despite how flawed this primitive version of Hole in the Wall was, Hypixel quickly noticed the hype for this game. One developer in particular, named Deprecated Nether, worked on an upgraded version of the game, which was released only 3 weeks after Party Games 3. Hole in the Wall as its own game now lasted 2 minutes, and players had levers to confirm their build so they could move on to the next wall. Oh, and people could fly now. The game held up to 16 players, 4 of which made it to a new stage if they were in the top 4, the finals. Unlike the qualifiers round, the finals walls were taller and much larger. The winner of the game is the person with the highest finals score. As its own arcade game, Hole in the Wall was a success, bringing a community of speed builders together, and even a Minecraft animation by the same studio that made the famous Blocking Dead animation. While it stayed a niche game for the next few years, Hole in the Wall received its first update in 2019. Up until then, walls had this animation when you confirmed them. This update completely removed the wall animations, allowing for much higher scores to be reached. Because of the wall animations being gone, new, more viable strats started emerging. People started skipping the first few walls to start on the high point walls, which was a lot more efficient in the long run. Arcsire, a Mineplex Speed Builders player, got into the Hole in the Wall community and also suggested not perfecting walls in finals. By not going for perfect walls, you lose a few points, but you gain time from skipping the hard blocks, making it a more efficient playstyle. 2020 was a time of revival for Minecraft, with lockdowns bringing people back to Hypixel. A streamer and arcade player known as Hammy in the Wall created the community as we know it today. Hammy started a new Discord server for the game, hosted Hole in the Wall tournaments, and streamed the game on Twitch occasionally.
Distasted just got the world record for no fly in the qualifiers.
This new active community started quickly shattering world records, with Simon and Puffleman going back and forth with the records. This new surge in players inspired a French developer, Black Outburst, to create a custom Hole in the Wall practice server, allowing people to train their skills in either mode. The practice server later featured custom modes like wide qualifiers, wide finals, the lobby wall, and whatever this is. How entertaining. With all that, Hypixel still had some surprises for Hole in the Wall. The 2021 arcade update is one of the biggest arcade updates, adding new content to nearly every arcade game, and boy did they not miss Hole in the Wall. This update introduced new achievements to almost every arcade game, and Hole in the Wall is no exception. The new tiered achievement was a challenge of how many points you could get in a single game of Hole in the Wall. With the max tier being 350 points, this challenge was ridiculously easy for mains, although the game now had a surge in AP hunters, which meant more players. This update to Hole in the Wall and arcade as a whole was a great decision, drawing in many new players. However, this couldn't be said about Hypixel's next update, which is ultimately what killed the game and its community. In a rush to save arcade games with a dying player count, Hypixel introduced a new lobby update for arcade, which was one of Hypixel's most controversial decisions. The old lobby was deemed too overwhelming for new players because of the amount of NPCs, so Hypixel changed the lobby by adding a rotation system, only featuring some games on certain days. Unfortunately for Hole in the Wall, this meant the game would only be visible once every 9 days, making the game queue essentially, well, only once every 9 days. With a game that doesn't queue when people want it to queue, win grinding became much harder, lowering the activity by a lot. Besides win grinders, people who simply wanted to improve their stats might not always be able to play on the days that Hole in the Wall is featured. The overall motivation of the already dying community just plummeted after the update, which was the nail in the coffin for the game. It's sad that the fate of arcade led some games in their communities to where they are now. Hole in the Wall isn't the only game that has suffered this fate, and this is just one of many similar stories. And while the game may be dead now, this is my way of sharing this game's incredible legacy and its story. I hope you learned something new about Hypixel. If you did, please subscribe because I'll be releasing more videos like this soon. Okay, bye!